Hey guys, it's Heather. Welcome back. I have another channeled message for you from the higher dimensions. And today they are starting off with a question. But before we begin, I want you to take a deep breath. Whatever you carried in today, set it down for a moment. You can pick it back up when we're done if you still want it. What if the part of you that you've been most afraid of is the part that was most trying to protect you? Sit with that for a moment. Not as a concept, but as a question that lands somewhere in your body. I want to talk today about something that is moving through the collective, something that has been building for a while and is asking to be named. We are in a moment where the spiritual conversation is shifting. The old model, stay in the light, raise your vibration, good vibes only, clear it out and keep going. Well, that model is cracking open. And underneath it, something older and more honest is now emerging. We are being asked to stop running from the dark. Not because the dark is good in the sense that nothing needs to be healed, but because the thing that we have been calling darkness is not what we think it is. So today's transmission is about what I'm calling the luminous darkness. And I want to be clear before we go any further. This is not about bypassing healing, and it's not about justifying harm or holding on to what no longer serves you. This is about something more specific. This is about the parts of yourself that you have been taught to exile, and what happens when you finally stop running from them. So let's begin with a definition. Not an academic one, but an energetic one. What is the luminous darkness, actually? The luminous darkness is not evil. It is not the absence of light. It is where the light lives before it learns to perform. Think of the space between stars. We call it dark, but it's not empty. It's full of potential, of matter not yet formed, of everything that is becoming. That is the luminous darkness. It's the fertile ground. It's the place where things gestate before they're ready to be born. It's the soil, not the absence of the garden. And in your own being, the luminous darkness is the home of everything that you have been told is unacceptable. Your anger, your grief, your hunger, your wildness, your needs that were called too much, your voice that was called too loud, your power that was called threatening. The parts of you that were put in a box labeled, deal with this later, or worse, labeled, this is not spiritual. Well, they did not disappear. They went underground, and they've been waiting. So there's a particular kind of spiritual teaching that has done tremendous harm to our community. And it sounds like this. Raise your vibration, release what is low, clear the negative, protect your energy, stay in the light. And while none of these are wrong exactly, it's about the way they've been applied, the culture that they've created, which has taught an entire generation of awakening people to perform a kind of spiritual cleanliness, to curate themselves, to present only the polished, the elevated, the healed version of themselves, and to shove everything else that doesn't fit into that narrative into a place where no one, including themselves, has to look at it. I'm sorry, but that is not ascension. That is spiritual bypassing dressed in the language of ascension. And the collective is waking up to that difference. Because here's what's true. You cannot integrate what you refuse to look at. You cannot heal what you keep exiling. And you cannot access the full spectrum of your power when you're spending most of your energy managing what you're hiding. The light is not better than the dark. The light needs the dark. The seed needs the soil. The diamond needs the pressure. The wound needs the witness. And you were never meant to live as only half of yourself. Let's talk about what is actually in your shadow. Because one of the reasons people avoid the shadow is that they believe they know what they will find. They expect monsters. They've been taught that their darkness is shameful, that it will confirm their worst fears about themselves. But this is almost never what happens when people actually go there. What people find in their shadow is not a monster. It's a child. It's the version of themselves that was told in 1,000 ways, large and small, that certain parts of who they were are not welcome here. Your anger was too much. Your sadness was inconvenient. Your needs were a burden. Your dreams were unrealistic. Your power was threatening. Your sensitivity was weakness. Your knowing was dismissed. And so you put those parts away. You learned to hide them so well that eventually you forgot they were there. But they didn't forget. They are in there, in the luminous darkness, doing what exiled things do, making noise from the underground, showing up in your triggers, living in your relationships as patterns that you can't quite explain, pushing through in your body when you've been ignoring them long enough. The shadow is not your enemy. It's the part of you that was not allowed to exist in the light. And it has been waiting for a long time to come home. So there's a particular wound that underlies most of this. And that's the wound of conditional belonging. This message, absorbed early and often in our lives, I am loved when I am good. I am welcome when I am easy. I am safe when I do not take up too much space. Well, this wound is not just personal. It's also ancestral. It's cultural. And it's collective. Generation after generation of humans have been taught that the price of belonging is the performance of acceptability. And so we learn to exile the parts of ourselves that might cost us that belonging. We gave away our anger because anger was dangerous. We muted our grief because grief made other people feel uncomfortable. We dimmed our power because power was punished. We turned down our knowing because knowing made us difficult. And we called this being good. We called this being spiritual. We called this being evolved. But what it actually is a survival adaptation that we have outgrown. You no longer need to exile yourself to belong. You are not a child who depends on the approval of people who cannot hold your full complexity. You are an adult with the capacity to belong to yourself first. And when you belong to yourself first, when you stop exiling the parts that are inconvenient, you will discover something extraordinary. The people who are meant for you can handle all of you. And the ones who can't, well, you no longer need to perform for them. Next, I want to address something that comes up often. People confuse integration with acceptance in the wrong sense. They think that integrating the shadow means excusing the harm that it has caused. That welcoming back the exiled parts means pretending that nothing happened. That sitting with the darkness means deciding that the darkness was fine. But that's not what integration means. Integration means, I see you. I understand how you got here. I understand what you were trying to do. And I'm choosing to bring you home, not to repeat you, but to transform you. Your anger, integrated, becomes a precise instrument for knowing when your boundaries have been crossed. Your grief, integrated, becomes the capacity for deep love and presence. Your power, integrated, becomes the thing that actually helps people rather than threatening them. Your sensitivity, integrated, becomes your gift and your compass, not your wound. The exiled part and the healed version of that part are the same energy, just in different forms. Raw grief becomes the depth of your love. Suppressed rage becomes sacred anger in service of what matters. Hidden power becomes leadership that does not need to dominate. This is the alchemy of the luminous darkness. You are not trying to destroy what is in there. You're trying to bring it to the light, not to perform it, but to transform it. So I want to give you something practical to carry out of here, because this work does not begin with a grand ceremony. It begins with a question. So go sit somewhere quiet and close your eyes if that feels right for you, and simply ask yourself, what part of me have I been taught to hide? And don't reach for the answer. Let it come to you. Maybe it's your anger. Maybe it's your grief. Maybe it was your ambition, because somewhere along the way you learned that wanting too much was dangerous. Maybe it's your softness, because you learned that softness got you hurt. Maybe it's your knowing, the things you see and feel and sense that you have learned to dismiss because no one around you could confirm them. Whatever arises, meet it with this. You are welcome here. Not welcome to run the show unchecked. Not welcome to make choices that harm you or others. But welcome, seen, acknowledged, not exiled anymore. That is where it begins. The rest comes from there. I want to speak directly now to a specific subset of the people who are listening. And you know who you are. You have been doing this work for years, probably longer than most of the people around you. You've read the books, done the therapy, sat in the ceremony, cleared the energy, said the affirmations, done the meditation, gone to the retreats, and something still hasn't moved. Something still sits in the center of you like a stone that nothing has been able to dissolve. And you're tired. Tired of working on yourself. Tired of the story that there's more to clear. Tired of the promise of the other side that keeps receding. Well, I want to offer you a different possibility. What if the thing that hasn't moved isn't something to be cleared? What if it's just something that needs to be heard? What if the immovable thing is not a block, not a wound, not a limiting belief, but a part of yourself that has been waiting with extraordinary patience for you to stop trying to fix it and start trying to understand it? What is it carrying? What did it learn? What was it trying to protect when it went underground? This is the question that opens the door. Not how do I get rid of this, but what are you trying to tell me? That's the conversation that changes everything. You are not broken. You are not stuck because you haven't tried hard enough. You are a complete human being with a shadow that deserves the same compassion that you've been extending to everyone else. So start there. So I'm going to close this transmission here. Today you came in carrying something. Maybe you've named it in these last few minutes. Maybe it's still forming for you. Either is fine. So what I want to leave you with is this. The luminous darkness is not the opposite of your light. It's the source of it. The most luminous people you have ever known, the ones who carry something real, something that you can feel in the room, they are not people who have cleared away every shadow. They are people who have sat in the dark long enough to know what lives there, and chose to bring it home anyway. That is the work. That is the path. Not up and out, but down and in. And then, from that depth, out into the world. You are held. You are whole. and you are not as broken as you've been told. All right, until next time.